Hello again. Welcome back on my YouTube channel. I'm back again with another video. So I'm just gonna talk about whether therapists, psychologists, uh, psychiatrists, whatever, that is actually helping people in terms of their neuroses in order to find out whether what is exactly making them behave the way they behave, because psychologists they care, and most of the time they they deal with studying people instead studying people in terms of their behavior, the way they think, their mind, as well as most of the time not all psychologists are able to work in with spirit unless the person is actually in tune with spirit. Most of the time they are able to understand your behavior and able to understand your mind and whatsoever. So I'm just gonna make a video as whether psychologists, therapists, as well as psychiatrists around those line, people actually help with mentally health in terms of, like, you know studying your behavior. So do they work? The thing is, when you're going for a psychologist or therapist or psychiatrist for the first time, obviously you won't be comfortable with opening up to someone, and that is normal. That is actually okay. You won't, but most of the time, the fear that we actually have is because we don't want someone to see through us. We don't want someone to actually find out what is exactly is the issue that made us behave the way that we behave, what is exactly making us be what we come up as. So we tend to hide that. So having someone who's actually being able to detect what exactly is actually fucking you up in terms of why are you being fragile, why are you being secretive, why are you being like that, because eventually as humans we all gonna go through certain trauma that make us being scared of being vulnerable, as us being scared of being who we are meant to be, being our authentic self, is because of certain judgment that we went through, whether growing up, bullies in school, at home, whatever that you actually experience the bully at. So when you're going to therapy, the thing is you need to understand that they are actually humans. As they are humans, they are very faulty, just like you. They're imperfect. So whether it's a counseling, they're imperfect the whatsoever way that they actually are. When you're going for therapists, this is something that you need to consider, that they're actually humans. Secondly, when you're going for them, you need to understand that not every therapist is actually good for you. In terms of, sometimes a therapist or psychologist, as a healer or counselor, is not for you. In terms of, like, you are not operating from the same wavelength. You are both not in a line in terms of, like, you are not in tune to actually work together. Sometimes you could go to therapists and psychologists and to find out that, oh, I wasted my money. I've said that before. I've said that I wasted my money in this, and I was supposed to listen to my heart, because, as I said, they are humans, not just that because they are humans now they are able to work with you. So you need to be aware of that. Not every therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist is actually for you. Some of them, they are there, that reason, some of them are there not because they want to help people. Some of them are there for their psychotic reason, and some of the time it's because they want to sleep with you. They want to sleep with people. They know being a psychologist, it put them in a place where they actually can allow people to be vulnerable. Some people are psychotic, so they know being in that, having a profession that actually help them to understand people in terms of their behavior. It gives them power. It makes them to be extremely manipulative. So what do they do? So they go for that because of money, and because they actually know that they can have a lot of victim, because some people are actually psychotic. They can go and study psychology, the whole fucking degree, the masters and everything, it all to find out that intention. It was not intention to actually help people in whatever the way they're willing to help people, because doing psychology, being a psychiatrist, it has a certain category in terms of like, you know what you want to be a specialist for, you know what you want to focus on. So you are a human being that knows you want to work with people who actually suffer from this. Sometimes it's a trauma, and like a lot, like plenty. It's just not just a one thing that you can just be like, oh, you need to do your research in order to understand what is exactly that the therapist is actually specializing in, what is exactly that you actually need healing from, what is exactly that you need assistance from. Because as you go there to a therapist, is you are not going there to just sit around and whatsoever. Another reason is, I think it's a fourth or fifth, you need to understand that therapists are there to hold space. They are holding space, meaning the fact that you knew that you need help through psychologist, therapist, whatsoever, and as you know that you need assistance in order to tell what exactly that you are making, that is actually self sabotaging your life, what is exactly that make you fall stuck or whatsoever, you are doing the work. When I'm saying you're doing the work, the only thing that a therapist does, they are able to diagnose with whatever issue that you're actually having, but it doesn't mean that as they're doing all of that, you are not responsible for your own healing, because your healing is your responsibility. It's not a psychologist, it's not a therapist, it's not a psychiatrist input only. You are also involved in this healing. You choose to be involved. You choose to know, I know what I need to go for, what. It's your decision. You are putting effort in order for you to heal, in order for you to help with having awareness of whatever issue that you are actually experiencing. So that happened. So they are holding spaces. They're not um helping you the way you think they're supposed to be helping you, in terms of like, some people think just going to a psychologist there, it's just gonna have, like, for example, if you have social anxiety and you know you have social anxiety, it makes you not being able to to socialize, not being able to have whatever that you actually want to have that is actually social. Maybe your career, it's put you on a spotlight, you don't know how to interact with people. They can help you to tackle down what exactly that is actually bothering you, why your social anxiety is like that, but it doesn't mean your social anxiety will go away. This is something that you need to know. I thought my social anxiety will actually disappear. I don't know why I thought that, but my social anxiety is actually um it's still with me. I It's just that I have a awareness over exactly why I behave the way I behave, why I why why I'm actually like this, because my social anxiety is who I am. And knowing that I have social anxiety, obvious, initially it was hard, but now I'm just a confident person who actually have a social anxiety, and I don't it doesn't bother me anymore like it used to. I used to be like, oh, what if they don't like me, what if, like, I was that kind of a person who, like, oh, I know there's no, like, I was constantly anxious. Like, I was a people's pleaser. Like, it was bad. But eventually I noticed that, okay, this is the issue, this is it. But it took me a lot of time. It took me a lot of energy, because I knew that I need to work on this, and it took me a lot. It just didn't just happen in 3 months. So whenever you end up wanting to be go for a psychologist, therapist, or psychiatrist, or even a spiritual healer, it doesn't mean that you should be aware that any kind of whatever profession that I've actually mentioned is actually trying to rush your journey. That person is not for you, because we are growing differently. We are constantly growing differently. Any kind of whatever program that they pull up, that they said probably you have to be done in 3 months, you need to have, like, unless you are that fast in terms of transmuting whatever that you need to transmute, that is actually possible. But any kind of like want you to rush your journey, you should have awareness that those people are actually not for you. Why are you rushing someone to be in whatever way that you want them? And another point, I think it's a 6 or 7, you need to have awareness that if a psychologist or therapist or spiritual healer is not healing, because as much as they're holding space for you, they're also healing for themselves, because they're also in a spiritual journey as themselves. So them being in a spiritual journey, it means both of you are actually growing separately. If the therapist does not consider that, the therapist does not go through their own awakening, their own shit, to realize this is and that, why are you wanting to have someone to be working with them who actually not developing, not growing? Because that person will be triggered by you growing up, like your growth. It will make them want to gaslight you, to put you in a dark place, because they are in a dark place. That's why whenever you are considering a therapist, a psychologist, whatever, you should be aware that you should study them before you actually have wanted to actually be around them in order to be vulnerable, because not everybody deserves your vulnerability. As much as therapists, they are able to help you to be, if you're not feeling comfortable with someone, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to work with them? Because eventually the it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. They are supposed to make you feel comfortable, but eventually sometimes you have to listen to your gut feeling. When it doesn't sit right with work with this person, you should cancel the whole session that you need to do with this person, because eventually they are humans. As I said, they are all in their own spiritual journey. They are constantly developing. So why do you want to have someone who eventually, when you find out that you actually they can't help you do what they do, they end up being a hindrance in your journey, because they feel like your growth intimidate them. Have you ever had someone who actually once your mentor, and the next thing now is your enemy? Things like that happen a lot. So I had this girl. I used to ask her a lot of questions, because she was actually, I won't say it's a girl, it's more like an old person to be enough to be my sister, because I think she's turning 39 or 40 this year, and I'm 25. So I knew that she had her journey before mine. So she was a person that I can go to and ask for some certain things about my spiritual journey, blah, 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 feeling the certain way or whatsoever. And then the next day, she turned out to be a bitch. Like, I don't know why. I guess she assumed that I would constantly be her mentor, which is disturbing, because as much as you are a leader, you are guiding people, you are actually helping them in terms of their profession that I actually mentioned. When your client is actually outgrown you, it doesn't mean now you're supposed to be a date. So some people do that. So they're trying now to make you feel bad for growing, because they're not growing. You know what I mean? Sometimes it happens that you actually outgrown your mentor. Not that they're not capable of growing, it's just that you are not both vibrating in the same level, you're not both vibrating in the same wavelength. So what happened is you are both now two people who know each other, but you are not that connected. And then they end up being a bad person now. They ended up trying to sabotage your life. Things like that, they can actually happen. It happened to me. It happened to my roommate who was actually a spiritual healer. That the first time that I actually opened up to someone, and then I happened to meet someone on my Instagram who I actually work with. They're both spiritual healers. I've never went to therapist and never went to psychologist, but through my personal experience with a spiritual healer, as well as hearing other people who actually went there, I happen to have a niece who actually went because she actually have anxiety and depression and a lot of and narcissist behavior. So she had a narcissist personal disorder. So what happened is she's not opening up. She's not willing to opening up. She's not willing to do anything. And the worst part about that psychologist thing that she actually working with, he's taking money. He is taking money. He doesn't care whether the section is actually evolving or whatsoever. But I understand that, as well as my niece was not willing to opening up and doing the inner work. He, he but I don't understand why he never informed the elder, because the niece is actually young. She's a 10. Why she never told her mother? He never told her mother about what exactly is actually happening. The niece is not opening up. The niece is not willing to do that. So why are you why don't you feel guilty of the fact that you are having pointless section? You're not talking beside hi, you're not doing anything, and the money is rolling in. Like, how can you actually go through with doing that, So not all psychologists and therapists actually are good people. Sometimes people, when you feel like you're outgrowing them, they're trying to make you feel like bad about your growth, and it's kind of disturbing, but you can't do anything because people are greedy, whatever that they are. So whenever you're searching for a mentor or whoever person that you actually need, you feel like you need guidance, you need someone who actually holds space where you know that to be vulnerable in order for you to tackle down what exactly is bothering you. You should have awareness of whether this person is actually right for me, because you can't just go for a therapist that is actually not good for you. There will be no desirable outcome. There will be no growth within you. Like, you'll feel stuck. You feel like you wasted money. We wasted money instead of growing, instead of whatsoever. So yes, we have to let go of expectation, but sometimes you can tell that you are still the same. You don't see any kind of result. So what's the point of continuing with this person, especially if you are putting effort as an individual, as a client? You know that you have to put effort in doing whatever that you are needed as guidance or assistant from, and that person is trying to shut you down because of your growth. So it happens a lot. It happens a lot, like gaslighting, and like it happens, like it's just not happening only on those profession, and even in spiritual community. If you are in terms of like a mystic spirituality, spiritual you are in a mystic spirituality, so things that like happen, you get gaslight. Even if in therapists and psychologists it happens, sometimes they don't understand you, so they don't have a gut to tell you that, you know what, I don't think I'm actually a mentor for you, I'm actually a psychologist for you. They don't do that. They want money. They end up diagnosing you. They end up diagnosing you with a certain thing that is not even related, because they are not willing to grow. They're not willing to open their post. They're not willing to be open to understand that there are certain diagnoses that actually work. So, especially if you're a spiritual person, I had someone that I actually come across when I think it was 2019, who actually have a spiritual gift. I don't know, they diagnosed him with what. The problem is, he knew that his mental health is declining. It's just that he didn't know what is actually happening to him. He knew that he's going crazy, because whenever you're going through a special awakening, you feel like you're losing it. And not only just that, you are losing in it. you become extremely depressed in terms of like you can't just be your old self, in terms of like people you used to fuck with, you don't fuck with anymore. You feel extremely sensitive around certain people that you used to feel find comfort in them. Your body is itching because you are going through upgrade and your body is feeling some type of way. So like a blend of things that actually happen. I'm not that knowledgeable. I'm not knowledgeable, but I can't just take it down what exactly happening in the spiritual journey in terms of everything. But I'm just gonna say you end up having headache, like experiencing a lot of certain pain in your body. And as someone who is sensitive, I never get someone who actually was able to diagnose me with what exactly is happening, because I knew I was sensitive. I knew I see things that are not other people can see. So you know things like that. So not all of the professions that I mentioned, they're actually in tune to understand that what you have going through spiritual awakening, this and that. So you need to have that awareness. The point that I mentioned, you need to study a psychologist. You need to know that not profession that I mentioned actually evolving. So you shouldn't find yourself in a place where you dimming your light, because a therapist or psychologist is find it intimidating. It's not your responsibility to help them with your triggers. It's not your responsibility to dim your light in order to make them feel comfortable. If it's your light shine, let it shine, babe. It happens with the person that was my roommate, who was actually a spiritual healer. She find myself intimidating. She tried to make me small, and it was so painful because I trusted her. It was the first person I ever been vulnerable with, so it just bothered me. I was hurt, but we're healing, we're going through it, so it's life. So thank you for liking, for subscribing and watching my YouTube channel. I really appreciate, and thank you guys for donation again. So bye.